Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shaostoul and this is another tutorial for modding space engineers. In this episode what we'll be doing is setting up the mod folder for accepting the MWMs that we have finished creating. I don't need to open up Blender anymore, so I'm going to start with starting a new folder for our mod. Now it's important to note that most everyone is going to have their mods installed into the same directory. However, a name will change, and I'll show you that now. Now, if I go to this PC, I want to go to my main drive where Windows is installed. So if I open this up, I want to go down to Users, and then Shaostoul, and you should see a whole bunch of extra folders and files here. And there's one that we care about, and it's called app data. It is, however, a hidden file. I am using Windows 10, and the way to unhide it is to go to View and click Hidden Items. And it should have this folder pop up for you. Now, if I open it up, it brings me to a local, low, and roaming. Opening up roaming, I see a whole bunch of folders here, and you don't want to delete any of these ever unless you know exactly what you're doing. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we want to go into Space Engineers, and here we are. This is a very important folder for you, so I want you to bookmark it for future use. Now, there's one very important file in here that I want you to pay attention to, and it's this one right here. Space Engineers, and it is a log file. Yours might say space engineers.log or .txt. Now, what this folder is, or this file is a crash log or a run log of what happened in the game when you launched it. There's a very good way to find out what happened when your game crashed. If anyone ever asks you to send them your log, this is the file you're going to be sending them. There's different parts of this file that are very important when trying to determine errors and stuff like that. I, however, do not have a crash log handy at the moment, so I can't show you what it might look like. But we're going to move on to creating our mod folder. So we want to go to mods. And here you can see I have a bunch of folders, and these are all my different mods. In my backup folder, I have all the mods that I handle as well as some other mods that I've worked on and have released, but don't really get that much attention for. And then scrolling down, you can see a whole bunch of SBM files. Now what these are the mod downloaded from the workshop. You don't have to compress or anything to get the SBM file. You are uploading the folder as it is, and Steam or Space Engineers takes care of creating the SBM file. So you don't have to worry about getting to this at all. When you subscribe to your mod and you download it the first time, you will get this file. Now it's important to note that you can edit these, but you can't re-upload them. What you would do is you would copy and paste. So copy and paste, scroll back up, and then you would change this file to a .zip, and it becomes a zip file. And you could open it up and look at what's in the folder. But we don't want to do that. So if you ever get to uploading your mod and you accidentally lose this folder, that's one way that you can actually get your mod back. You won't be able to get back your models unless you put your source files into your mod folder. I, however, do not suggest doing that for two reasons. One, people will be able to take your source files and use them for their own stuff, so if you don't want somebody to do that, don't include them. And then the other reason is to keep the file size lower, so when people want to load into a world, they don't have to download an extra big mod file just because you have all your source information in there. Now, what we're going to do is create a gyroscope folder. I'm going to delete this old one. And I'm going to go folder, and I'm just going to name it Shao-gyroscope. And what we need to do now is fill out the important folders and files that we're going to have. I'm going to open up another side here, and I'm going to go to where I have the MWMs. Alright, so I have a models folder that I need to add in. And within this models folder, I need to put a gyroscope folder. And then I just add these MWMs right into there. In here you can see they are. So coming back, I now need to add the textures for these. And to do that, I go folder, new, textures. Alright, so I go into this folder here, and I need to create some more folders to actually be able to reference where everything's at. So I'm going to open my master pack now and go into this subfolder. Here you can see there's a GUI folder with an icons folder inside of it. And what these are the icons that you actually see in the build menu. So it's important that you have this folder and these files, or else your model will not have the icon in the block menu. It will be clear and you won't see anything. You'll have to hunt down by mousing over it to try to find it. So what we need to add is a GUI folder and then a icons folder. And we'll get to this in another video for creating our icons. Next, we need to go back and we need to create a models folder. And this is where we're going to put all of our textures. Now, for the purpose of mine, I believe what I used was a armor dark and default, the basic, and I used a emissive white, if I remember correctly. I can open up Blender and check. So armor default, armor dark, emissive white, and then I need to get this terminal left and right. Well, I don't have that in my master pack presently, so I need to go where I got it, which is in the backup and the holo table that I made for Drago. So if I go into here and scroll down, there they are. Alright, so that is all the textures I need for this model at the moment. So I can back up from here, and I can now be in the main folder. Now if I go back to my master pack, you can see that I have an audio data folder. We don't need the audio one because we're not going to change any of that. So I'm going to add a data folder. And here we have a mod info file, but we're not actually going to create this. Space Engineers, when you upload it to the Steam Workshop, will automatically create this file. We will, however, need a thumb for displaying on the workshop, but that'll be when we finally get it into the game and working when we create that. So going into the data folder and in the master pack, I have a whole bunch of files in here. Some of them are repeat names. Here you can see I have some ammo magazines, block categories, cube blocks, blueprints, transparent materials, and weapons. So the ones that we care about are going to be the block categories and the cube blocks. I'm going to go ahead and go to the original install area for Space Engineers, and I'm going to grab the files from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy block categories and cube blocks and paste them in here. And I'm going to set these up for being ready for our mod. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete all the information in here so it's empty, but it has the necessary header and footer information so that we can add our block. So I'm going to start at this cube blocks spot here. This area that is highlighted is actually going to stay. So click after cube blocks and we're going to scroll very far down, way down. Oops. Select it here and scroll. And now we can see that we're in this block position area. We need to scroll up a little bit. A lot of it, apparently. And I want you to hold shift and click the end of this /definition. So when you delete it, it should go cube blocks, space, and then cube blocks. And I'm going to get rid of the spaces in front because that's how I like it. And we're going to keep one of these block positions so we can actually use it to set our block position in the build menu. So go ahead and click at the end of block positions here and scroll all the way down. And we'll stop right here at /block positions and delete. And we'll put a space between here so it's easier to know what we're looking at. I'm going to turn on my macros so I can easily tab these things where I want them. And there we go. So this name here doesn't matter, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And I'm going to delete these or close them. Alright, so this is pretty much what we need. This block position will allow us to place the block in a specific location in the block menu, but typically you want to just leave this alone. You could even get rid of it if you wanted to and not even have to worry about it. So we'll just do that. The reason I usually suggest getting rid of it is because other people might actually change where their positions are, or the devs might add a whole bunch of blocks and it will overwrite what you have in here. So it's a good idea to either leave it or be very determined to make sure that your block positions are always updated with your stuff. But you can never count on everybody to follow some sort of code for block positions. Alright, so we need to actually add some information to the cube blocks file. So I'm going to open up the original one, and I'm going to look for something called the gyroscope, the thing that we've been working on. And here we go. When I find it, you can see that it has a start definition area, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom of the block, it has a /definition area. So we're going to go ahead and copy all of that and put it into our file. Alright, so now I want to clean this up a little bit so it's a bit easier to copy our information over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure it how I like it real quick. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I do it this way because I like my code to look clean and I like to have everything kind of uniform. Alright, so I'm going to stop here at critical component. Now, if you remember in Blender, we made our mount points and our build progress models, and we did our mirroring. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select the mirroring, the block pair name, the build progress models, and the mount points, and I'm just going to delete them. And we'll copy that information in from our XML file that we made when we exported the block from Blender. Alright, so this is pretty much what we should be at right now. And I want to make sure that you get your block imported into this. So we'll go to Blender Saves, Space Engineers Models, Gyroscope, and we're just going to make a large block at the moment. So I'm going to select the LG gyroscope. I'm going to open that up, and here we can see our build progress models, our mount points, our mirroring, and our block pair name. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy all of this, go back into our file, and at the end I'm just going to go ahead and add it there. The order doesn't matter too much except for some things. I suggest trying to stick to what I have here. I like adding the build progress and the mount points and this stuff at the end, because if I change the block in the future, I could just select this end portion here and paste it over. Alright, so we need to change some names. So I'm going to select this because this is the name of our block. And I'm going to go back up here to the top. Now, the type ID is very important. This is going to be a set name. So for the gyroscope, it has to be gyro. For thrusters, I believe it is thrust, and for different blocks, it's different things. Another important thing to note that some blocks will actually have an extra bit at this definition area. As you can see, it goes My Object Builder Gyro definition, and that's because the gyro needs the extra information that is grabbed from here. So you need to make sure that you have that information, or your block will either crash or not function properly. You might have an armor block or something simple that just looks like this, and that's fine. Not all of the blocks actually have this extra information here. Alright, so the subtype ID, this is very important. If you name it something specific and somebody names their block that same name as well, they will overwrite one another. I want my block to be separate and never to get overwritten by other people unless they're intentionally trying to sabotage. So what I'm going to do is I got that name copied down there. I'm going to paste it in here. Now, I am working with a large block, so I want to make sure that I type large underscore on the front here. That way, when I make the small version, I can just change large to small. The players won't ever see this name here, so it's important to remember that you can put whatever you want there as long as you actually understand what it is you are putting there. Now for the display name, we don't need to do this system that they have here. We can actually paste our name in, delete some information, and use spaces now. It's a lot easier than it used to be, and it works perfectly. So I can add original fully, and that's what the players will see in the block menu. Now the icons, if you remember, we put them in the textures, GUI icons folder, but we don't have this cubes folder, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. The icon name is actually going to be similar to the block pair name, so we're going to paste that over, and I'm going to add icon at the end. I do this because it makes sure that I never have any inner mod issues. So scrolling down, we can see these are our components. The critical component. This component is required to actually start building this, as well as being the final component in the build progress to have a functioning block. So if I had this be motor instead, if it got to the motor point, it would be a functional block. It's important to note that the computer is also the blue line that you see on the build progress line in game. And that's the point at which you hack the model. Now you could take this computer and put it up here towards the top, which means they'd have to grind through all of this stuff to actually get down to the computer component, which would make things a headache for somebody trying to steal your ship from inside. Scrolling down, we can see edge type, and that's not very important. Build time in seconds. It's easy to you need to remember that you need to have some sort of time that's decent. If you have too low of a time and you're in game, and say you have a 10 times build speed, or you're using the new elite welder or grinder, you're going to go through this time super fast, and that you might accidentally just delete the block immediately instead of wanting to grind it down a little bit. The primary sound is the sound the block is going to make while it's active. I'm not too sure what this resource sync group is yet. It's fairly new and I haven't messed with it too much. I just make sure I have it properly in the block code so I don't run into any crashing issues. The force magnitude here is how much force the gyroscope can actually enact on our ship, and here we can see that we actually have an equation. This means that it's 3.36 and then move it over 7 times. So it would actually look like this, and then go 3.6, and then I believe it's followed by 5 zeros if I do my math right. But this is a way to shorten it to make it easier on you when you're setting up your stuff, so you don't have to have a whole ton of zeros. Here we can see the required power input. This is how much energy is actually going to be needed from reactors for it to work. The damage effect ID is the particle effect that you will see in game when it's damaged and not functioning, and the damage sound is the sound it makes when it's damaged. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up this video. You're able to get your block in now, and you also have your models in here. You're able to link those models in this line here. So we go models, gyroscope, and then LG. Oops, I put things in the wrong location. So grab this here and go like that. And everything should be set up properly. I will catch you guys in the next video when I work on getting this actually functioning in game.